As EPA moves forward toward greenhouse gas regulation, Lisa Jackson delivers some specific numbers during Senate testimony. Also, the flap over foreign wind companies receiving Recovery Act funding, why the wind industry is now going head-to-head with certain Democratic senators. And another bipartisan bill comes forward from the Senate Energy Committee. Who is now backing the new plan involving energy efficiency?
From the Energy News Center in Washington, D.C., this is the Energy Report with Susan McGinnis.
And good Thursday morning. I'm Tyler Suiters in for Susan McGinnis. Thanks for joining us for the Energy Report on this fourth day of March 2010. There are now more revisions for the EPA's proposed regulations on greenhouse gases. More than a week after telling lawmakers that she might revise the so-called tailoring rule, Lisa Jackson has now announced exactly that. The EPA Administrator told the Senate committee yesterday the agency will not regulate sources that produce less than 75,000 tons of CO2 per year. That total is 3 times the limit included late last year when that rule was first proposed. The change would allow the agency to regulate heavy industries, things like coal-burning power plants and other energy producers, while exempting smaller sources like hospitals, large buildings, and schools. Jackson says the agency would consider lowering that threshold to between 50,000 and 75,000 tons in 2 years, and it will be at least 2016 before the agency looks at regulating sources that emit fewer than 50,000 tons per year. Now, former EPA Attorney Dick Stoll, now with Foley and Lardner here in Washington, he tells me the agency is facing what he calls a major train wreck if it moves forward with regulation under the Clean Air Act. According to Stoll, EPA is now doing everything it can, like going with higher CO2 emission limits, to minimize the potential damage here. You can see Dick Stoll's entire analysis of Jackson's decisions and also the legal challenges that lie ahead. That's all here on our website, cleanskies.com. This morning, 4 Senate Democrats are now speaking out about more than $1 billion in stimulus money awarded to foreign-owned companies. Charles Schumer is leading the effort to rework the Recovery Act's Buy American provision, rework that to include not only government projects, but also private projects as well. Senator Schumer points to a planned $1.5 billion wind energy project in Texas, one that would use turbines made in China. And this is a project scheduled to get $450 million in stimulus funding. Schumer says, quoting now, "It is so outrageous it just makes your blood boil. It's not why we voted for the stimulus. We are demanding the Obama administration suspend this program immediately, indefinitely. We are sending a letter to Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner asking him to halt all payouts for this program until we in Congress can go back and fix this flaw." But the Department of Energy is standing behind the project, as well as others. Spokesperson Stephanie Mueller says, quoting, "The Recovery Act has doubled the pace of investment in America's wind industry, including helping attract more than $10 billion of foreign investment to create U.S. jobs. We will work with Congress on any proposal to further improve this program, but suspending it now would cause immediate layoffs of American workers at American manufacturing plants." The American Wind Energy Association is also criticizing those senators' proposals, saying this grant program also supports domestic projects and that towers, blades, and many other components for these foreign companies that are assembled are actually built here in the U.S. And there was another challenge for the wind industry this morning. Wyoming's governor is now ready to sign into law the nation's first ever state excise tax on wind energy production. Dave Friedenthal made the wind tax a priority of his legislative agenda, and last week that measure sailed through the state legislature with at least a 2/3 majority in each house. So starting in 2012, wind energy producers in Wyoming will pay the state $1 per megawatt hour, with 60% of those revenues going to counties, 40% will go to the state. That tax will apply to turbines that have produced for at least 3 years. Governor Friedenthal says the move will limit the energy production playing field in his state because wind projects already receive federal subsidies while fossil fuels are taxed. However, OWEA now says with other states competing for renewable projects, it may be time for the wind industry to look somewhere outside of Wyoming for new development. On Capitol Hill, a bipartisan bill is now emerging from the Senate Energy Committee, one to boost the national energy efficiency standards on energy-intensive consumer products. We're talking about things like air conditioners, furnaces, and heat pumps. Senators Jeff Bingaman, Lisa Murkowski, and Robert Menendez put forth the National Energy Efficiency Enhancement Act of 2010. It's an effort to implement several agreements that are already negotiated between appliance manufacturers and efficiency advocates. In a statement, Senator Murkowski says, quote, "The great potential of energy efficiency has spurred the administration, Congress, and efficiency advocates to work together to improve consensus appliance standards with the promise of shrinking energy bills." She continues, "Unfortunately, sometimes technology advances faster than the DOE rulemaking process for efficiency standards moves. I'm hopeful this bill will help get the process back on track and at the same time set several efficiency standards to benefit consumers." The Senate Energy Committee will meet on Wednesday to further consider this bill. And Energy Committee Chairman Jeff Bingaman also discussed his committee's pending clean energy bill yesterday. He was among the keynote speakers at the ARPA-e Summit here in Washington. Bingaman's bipartisan ARPA-e bill will be one half of the comprehensive clean energy legislation Harry Reid wants on the Senate floor sometime later this year. And following his speech, I asked the senator about having to wait so long for the other half of that legislation. That is the Kerry Graham-Lieberman climate bill. How frustrated are you with the delays on the climate bill and, in turn, the delays on your clean energy ARPA-e bill?
Well, I think Senator Reid is planning to get to an energy and climate bill. He is obviously focused right now on getting this jobs bill through and financial regulatory reform as well. But I'm still optimistic we can get it done in this Congress.
So you still feel patient?
I still feel optimistic.
Well, it turns out Senator Bingaman will have to wait even longer, at least that's how it looks right now. I talked with Washington energy strategist Mike McKenna. He has been involved in these discussions about the Kerry Graham-Lieberman climate bill almost since the beginning. And McKenna tells me his educated guess here is that the trio of senators won't unveil their bill until the third week of March. TransCanada now says it will consider letting domestic crude onto its Keystone XL pipeline. The company had previously ignored requests, citing a lack of interest. But now, following a meeting yesterday between company execs and U.S. oil producers, TransCanada Vice President Robert Jones says the Keystone XL is, quote, "open for business with U.S. crude producers, and it will look into building an on-ramp for domestic producers as well." Construction is expected to begin sometime later this year. We'll take a look now at the events scheduled around the Washington, D.C. area for this Thursday. First of all, early this morning, 8 a.m. Eastern, the Center for American Progress began hosting a panel discussion. The topic here, how to make the U.S. a leader in the clean energy economy. Clean Skies News is on hand, and our own Susan McGinnis is moderating a morning panel during this discussion. We'll have a closer look at that event later today. At 10 a.m. Eastern, Energy Secretary Stephen Chu appears before the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee on Energy and Water Development. Secretary Chu will be discussing DOE's proposed 2011 fiscal year budget that takes place in the Dirksen Senate Office building. And then at 3 o'clock this afternoon, the Secretary of the Interior, Ken Salazar, holds a teleconference. He's announcing the first of 8 regional science centers here in the U.S., called for in his secretarial order on climate change. And that is this Thursday morning edition of the Energy Report. Thanks for joining us. You can follow us throughout your day on Twitter and Facebook and reach our team here in Washington anytime at contact@cleanskies.com. From all of us here in the Energy News Center, we're glad you're with us. I'm Tyler Suiters, and you're watching Clean Skies News.